Welcome to the Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, as always, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. And coming up, the Eagles got some bad news from ESPN. What I mean by that is some of the top Philadelphia Eagles free agents who are going to hit the free agency market might be hard to retain with how they've played, how they've performed, how they've improved their stock. And these multiple players who we're about to talk about on today's show could cash in during free agency, which impacts the job that Howie Roseman's going to be able to do this offseason, regardless of what happens in Super Bowl 59 against Kansas City. So let's start off with this. ESPN putting their list together of the top 50 free agents in the National Football League. 4 Eagles players are on that list. And Howie Roseman, as he always does, might have to get creative with the cap once again if he wants to keep and retain some of those players on this Eagles roster. As for where Philadelphia stands from a cap perspective, as you look ahead to the 2025 NFL offseason, as it's obviously set to get underway as soon as the Eagles play that game against Kansas City in New Orleans. According to Over the Cap, the Eagles have $18 million in cap space currently right now. I wouldn't panic at that. Obviously, it's not a lot of money. It's 21st among 32 teams, but that's without any cuts, trades, restructures, or contract extensions. There is some good here. We know that Howie Roseman is so financially savvy. If you were handling your stocks, you would want him to control your portfolio because he's a magician with the cap. And even if the Eagles lose some of these players this offseason, the Birds have plenty of young talent with top players locked up on this team. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Landon Dickerson, last offseason, all signed contract extensions. Howie was able to hit in the draft on Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalix Hunt, I think is going to be a good player. Reed Blankenship had his contract kind of extended and money guaranteed to him. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. You get the point. A lot of these marquee players are under contract for the Eagles, and regardless of which players could leave, Philadelphia is still set to have a very good roster next year in 2025. Here on Eagles Now, we do it all. That's why you subscribe to the show. And if you've kept tabs on the channel, if you haven't, look at the channel history. All throughout this week, coming up this upcoming week, great Super Bowl coverage. Everything you need to know going into Eagles-Chiefs. But when it comes to the offseason, the draft, we bring the heat here as well. That's a big reason why the channel is north of 105,000 subs. We are going to be in New Orleans Sunday all the way up until the game, providing you with great coverage. So hit that sub button. You don't want to miss it. And obviously, this is a good place to start as well by setting the table and the foundation of the top Eagles 2025 free agents. Josh Sweat, edge rusher. Brandon Graham, edge rusher. Zack Baun, the linebacker. Mekhi Becton, right guard. Avonte Maddox, cornerback. Milton Williams, defensive tackle. LaRaven Clark, offensive tackle. Rick Lovato, long snapper. CJ Uzomah, tight end. Fred Johnson, offensive tackle. And you look at the list on the screen right here. Josh Sweat, starter. Brandon Graham, marquee player. Zack Baun, Mekhi Becton, starter. Milton Williams, a great rotational player who could get a bunch of dough in free agency because he's one of the top defensive tackles that's going to hit the market. And according to Pro Football Focus, he had a pass rush grade of 90.4. That was second among 219 interior defensive linemen. We flip the page. Jack Driscoll, Paris Campbell, Oren Burks. I'd like to see him come back as a backup backer and special teams player. Nick Gates, Isaiah Rodgers. If the Eagles move on from Darius Slay, keep Rodgers and put Keely Ringo and Eli Ricks on that outside. That could be financially savvy. Ian Book, Kenneth Gainwell, Britton Covey, Ben Van Sumeren. So in totality there, that is 19 upcoming free agents for the Eagles. And so with this ESPN list of the top 50 free agents, let's see where some Eagles fall inside that top 50. Josh Sweat, highest ranked free agent target according to ESPN. I personally might have Zack Baun on there. ESPN goes with Josh Sweat, coming in at number 9. Here's what ESPN had to say about him. a productive rusher in Vic Fangio's front in Philadelphia. He had 8 sacks and 33 pressures this year. He's a long, angular mover who can win with speed to power, and he has built-in counters to disengage from offensive tackles. Sweat makes our top 10. He will enter free agency with the flexibility to play in a 3-4 or a 4-3. He's done both of those in his tenure in Philadelphia. He has ties to Arizona, where his former defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon is running the show. Washington, New England, Tampa Bay, and Tennessee could be on the radar, those destinations, according to ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler. And I'm interested to see what Josh Sweat gets. For instance, Pro Football Focus projects that he's going to get $18 million per year. Myles Garrett makes $25. That is way too much for Josh Sweat. I like him as a player. Howie Roseman got him at a really good value play, 4th round out of Florida State, soon to be 28 years old, very productive player during his career with Philadelphia, but it all depends on the price tag here. Regardless of what the price tag is for Zack Baun, I am trying to lock him up. And he comes in at number 12 on the ESPN top 50 list of free agents here across the NFL. Here's what ESPN said about the stud that is Baun. Had a breakout year in Philadelphia under Fangio, 150 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 1 pick. He's a versatile off-ball linebacker with 3-down ability, and he can set an edge due to his physical style. You know what he can also do? He can sack the quarterback. One of the most impressive player developmental stories that I have seen in my career covering the NFL and that I've seen being an Eagles fan since 1996. He had not played off-ball linebacker before. The Saints used him as a pass rusher. Howie signs him for about $3 million. Vic Fangio, with that linebacker coaching background that he has, which started in Dunmore, Pennsylvania, shout out to the 570, turns him into a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year and a first-team All-Pro, who alongside Fred Warner, that was the All-Pro team. And the numbers, they speak for themselves, just made plays all over the yard, game-changing plays. And he can rush the quarterback. He can cover. He can go against the run. He can set the edge. This is a player who's a blossoming star, and he's already a star with what he did this year and could play a huge role against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Your call here, which Eagles free agent does Howie Roseman need to sign? Let me know down in the comment section right now. Our sponsor for today's Eagles Now, PrizePicks. 1 football game remaining. Take advantage of it with our friends at PrizePicks. More than 10 million active members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. And right now, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. And if you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. You pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on their projected stats, and you can win some big-time cash. Head to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Download the app, create an account, and get 50 when you play 5. PrizePicks also has great specials, like the big game free pick, Patrick Mahomes projection discount. All he has to do is throw for more than a half passing yard, and then you need 1 more win to get the big win. The other one that we like, Saquon Barkley, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. PrizePicks is where it's at. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. We'll put that link down below in the comment section and in the description of today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. Top free agent target number 3, according to ESPN, is Milton Williams. And how about how Howie has been able to build this roster? 3 Eagles players coming in at the top 16 so far, and Milton Williams is one of the fastest rising players who is going to be a free agent, and one of these players in the NFL this year who improved his stock more than anybody. The 2nd highest pass rushing grade among defensive tackles in the NFL. Here's what ESPN had to say about him. The Louisiana Tech star. Williams has the strength to displace blockers at the point of attack with the light feet and short area burst to slip interior offensive linemen as a pass rusher. 5 sacks, 18 pressures in 2024 with the Eagles. The arrow is pointing up. And what's so impressive about what he's been able to do, 5 sacks, 7 TFLs, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, big plays in the playoffs, and he did all of that despite having not played 50% of the snaps. And so I think a team is going to pay him because he's young, doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on the tires. He clearly has ability on a 3-4 front, even 4-3. He could play defensive tackle. He can play edge. But if you pay him and he plays more, you have to imagine he could break out for double-digit sacks. And then coming in at number 4 is right guard Mekhi Becton. He checks in at number 30 on this top 50 list from ESPN. A failed offensive tackle with the New York Jets turned into one of the top guards in the NFL by Jeff Stoutland this season. The 2020 first-round pick from ESPN, offensive tackle, bumped inside to guard this year after signing that one-year deal with the Eagles. He uses his 6'7", 363-pound frame to overwhelm and move defenders in the run game. He has the tools and the footwork to win as a pass protector, though. And I think a lot of teams are going to show some interest in Becton as an offensive tackle. Look, you can make a lump sum and a fortune playing guard in this league. Landon Dickerson is making $21 million per season. Mekhi Becton, you found your groove. You found your position at guard. Don't go out to offensive tackle and be a disappointment. Play guard and continue to thrive there. 3 sacks allowed, so good on those pull blocks. And when defenders see 6'7", 363 coming at him, they're like, no, get me out of the way. Oh no, Mekhi Becton's coming for me. He's a Mack truck. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram, by the way, at Chase_Senior. In addition to the long-form content that I do here on YouTube, we put up a lot of short-form content up on my social media pages.